8 years ago, I was a taxi driver. I was used to driving through the night, picking up strangers, and listening to their stories. But nothing could have prepared me for that night, a night that still haunts me, one that stopped me from ever driving again. It was around 2 a.m., and a deep, unsettling quiet had settled over the city. The streets were empty, and a strange blue-tinged moonlight cast long shadows across the road, turning the familiar into something ominous. I was exhausted, ready to head home. The last thing I expected was for the backseat door to open, yet suddenly, there he was, a man wearing a sharp red suit and a matching fedora slipped into the back seat. I hadn't seen anyone around. Not a soul in sight. He looked like something from another era, his face gaunt, cheekbones sharp, and hidden behind large red-tinted sunglasses. I could barely make out his eyes beneath them, but I could feel his gaze, cold and unwavering, piercing right through me. "Where to, sir?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "To a place you'll hate more than anything," he answered, his voice thin, as if it came from somewhere far away. His words didn't make sense, but there was something about his voice, an eerie, hollow tone, that sent a chill down my spine. "Could you, give me an exact address?" I asked, uneasy but determined to keep the exchange professional. "I'd like to get you there quickly, sir. I'm looking forward to getting home myself." I forced a laugh, hoping to break the tension. "Oh, that's sweet," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I think I made the right choice picking you." He let out a slow, rattling laugh. The sound was unsettling, like air leaking from a balloon, and his laugh sent a wave of discomfort through me. Every instinct told me to tell him to get out, but there was something about him that made me hesitate. "There's a cemetery, about 10 miles from here," he finally said. "Let's go there." I stared at him in the mirror, considering my options. I wanted nothing more than to refuse, but his eyes, or rather, the glint of red in the shadows where his eyes should have been, dared me to defy him. Reluctantly, I started the engine, and we were off. Trying to calm myself, I decided to break the silence. "So, what do you do for a living?" I asked, forcing a casual tone. "Oh, I'm a delivery man," he said, his voice dragging out the last syllable. "Really? And what do you deliver?" I asked, glancing at him in the rearview mirror, trying to gauge his expression. He leaned forward, a grin spreading across his face. "Something precious. I'm delivering it right now." He chuckled again. Louder this time, and a cloud of dust seemed to escape his mouth. My skin crawled as I saw his mouth open wide, revealing rows of decayed, rotten teeth. His gums were blackened and his tongue looked dried and withered, as if he hadn't spoken in years. I gagged, quickly looking back to the road, forcing myself not to react. As we neared the cemetery, I could see the headstones peeking out through the fence, and I felt a deep dread settle over me. This man, whoever he was, whatever he was not ordinary. He began to hum a slow, tuneless melody that filled the car like a shiver through my bones. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I could feel his gaze burning into the back of my head. "Sir, this is the cemetery," I said, eager to let him out. He didn't move. Instead, he leaned even closer, his cold, bony fingers resting on the edge of the front seat. "Yes," he whispered, his breath chilling my skin. "It's time." Before I could react, he grabbed my face, his fingers icy, the skin stretched tightly over his bony hand. I jerked, trying to pull away, but his grip was like iron. His hand slid over my mouth, and I felt his cold, skeletal fingers pressing down my throat. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. And then, with a horrifying realization, I felt his hand close around my heart, squeezing, gripping it with a strength that defied logic. Pain erupted through my chest. My vision blurred, and I slammed on the brakes, desperate to free myself, but his grip only tightened. As I hovered on the edge of consciousness, his voice slithered into my ear, barely a whisper. "I deliver people to the afterlife." The world went black. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hospital room, my wife by my side, tears streaming down her face. She held my hand tightly, her voice trembling as she spoke. "You're okay," she said, relief flooding her words. "The doctor said you had a massive heart attack. They thought you wouldn't make it." I stared at her, my mind reeling, trying to process everything that had happened. My heart ached, but it wasn't just from the attack. The memory of that man, his icy grip, his whisper, haunted me. "What happened to the man in the back seat?" I asked, my voice barely audible. her face twisted in confusion. What man? You were alone in the car when the paramedics arrived. I shook my head. No. I picked him up. He was wearing red. He attacked me. But she only looked at me with pity. I felt my stomach twist as she explained that no one else had been in the car. Desperate for proof, I insisted she bring the dashcam footage. Maybe, I thought, maybe it would show something, anything, that could confirm I wasn't going mad. But when we played it back, all we heard was a strange hissing noise, like air leaking from a balloon. No voice. No laughter. Only that ominous, unexplainable sound. No one else could hear it, but to me, it was as clear as day. My wife, the doctors, everyone chalked it up to hallucinations or a dream brought on by the heart attack. But I knew. I remembered the cold, dead feeling of his hand, his decaying smile, his final words. As the days passed, my memories began to blur, and I wondered if maybe I was just losing my mind. But then, in the middle of one sleepless night, it all came rushing back to me, as vivid as that night. His whisper, the sound of his voice, echoing in my ears, I deliver people to the afterlife. My entire body erupted in goosebumps, my heart hammering wildly as if his grip had returned, still claiming me. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button. Join us for more spine-tingling tales and thrilling mysteries. Your support helps us bring you the best in horror storytelling. Subscribe now so you never miss out on our next terrifying story.